All right, folks, let's get started. Welcome to the call, everyone. Thanks for being here tonight. We really appreciate it when folks are participating in the webinars, and it's nice to see that we have some folks on the call tonight. So thanks, everyone, for being here. My name is Erin Fox. I'm a co-chairperson of the Coordinated Campaign Committee.
Tom.
Some of you might have caught my webinar of a year ago on the subject of targeted political campaigning, voter targeting, as it's otherwise known, last May. And, you know, we also have, I want to say right at the beginning of the call, we have some great resources at gpus.org. If you go and look at our committee page, there's a whole list of webinars that can help your campaigns. So if you haven't had a chance to browse through our archive of webinars, please take a moment to do so. What we're going to do here is, first of all, we are going to just have a brief round of introductions. We've got about 16 people here on the call, so I'd like everybody to just kind of keep it brief, but just tell me who you are, where you're from, and if you have used the voter targeting program on a campaign before. So who'd ever like to go first?
It's Logan Martinez in Dayton, Ohio. I've targeted candidates or targeted voters on a number of different campaigns that I've worked on.
I'm Barbara Barry from Connecticut, and we've targeted voters.
Yeah, I'm Mike DeRose. I'm running for Secretary of State here in Connecticut. And basically, I'm interested in finding out any way that I can make outreach to the whole state. Did run before, 4 years ago, but there you go.
Jason Napoleonic, Rochester, New York. Yes, definitely.
Scott LeBlue from Louisiana. I'm just interested in how to target people in voting.
Yeah, I'm Joe Manchik. I'm running as a Green Party candidate for the U.S. House of Representatives in Ohio's 12th Congressional District.
Hello.
I'm Robert I'm Robert Alway. I'm running for State Senate in Michigan's 26th District. First time running for anything, so everything is news to me.
Jennifer Kurland. I am running for governor in Michigan, and I have used different voter targeting strategies and et cetera.
Hi, Erin, this is Holly Hart. Are you asking for a roll call?
Introductions.
Okay. So this is Holly Hart from Iowa City, also co-chair of the CCC. And I just want to thank Erin for doing a fantastic job. So sorry I'm late in the call. I'll shut up now. I'll just listen.
And hi, Diane Moxley from New Jersey. I'm running in the 7th Congressional District. And in past campaigns, I have worked with targeted lists, but I'd like some information for how I can do that as a Green.
Frank Foster Jr., Flint, Michigan, running for Kearsley School Board. Just here to hear what Aaron's got to say.
I'm Shar Davenport. I'm actually Jennifer Kurland's running mate. She's running for governor. I'm running for lieutenant governor. I have been involved in campaigns before, but I have a lot to learn about this, so I'm all ears.
Is there anybody else out there that would like to introduce themselves?
I'm Tom Rodman from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Hope to support the two people we have running, Michael White and Tiffany, for governor in Wisconsin and lieutenant governor. And yeah, I'm not all that familiar. I'm not with this group. I just got an email, so I'm all ears. Thanks.
Is there a couple other people out there who'd like to introduce themselves?
Hi, this is Joe Crane.
And what state are you in?
I'm from Missouri, and I'm running for the U.S. Senate seat.
Well, thanks for joining the call. Okay, there was a couple more rings, and then I think Erin's probably doing something offline here for a second, but a couple more people? Or is that pretty much?
Hillary.
And someone else rang in? Okay.
It's Hillary.
All right.
This is Pauline. Sorry, I didn't want to disturb.
And what state are you in, Pauline?
I'm in New York. I'm the Suffolk County chairperson of the Green Party.
All right. Well, thanks for joining. Hillary, I think Erin may be offline, so...
no, I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. We don't hear Erin.
I'm here, Logan.
Okay, there you are.
Great.
I'm here. Yes. Hi, folks, and thanks everybody for being here, and thanks for helping with those introductions, Logan. You know, folks, last year we went over a pretty comprehensive program on voter targeting, and today what we're going to do is really go through 10 quick steps. But there are some things I wanted to cover just to touch the highlights of the last webinar we did. So you want to do voter targeting on a green campaign for a very specific reason, and that is because, you know, we realize how precious our limited resources are. And so we want to make sure that we use those resources in the best possible way. We can do this by targeting specific voters, specific demographics of voters in your district or in your state in order to make sure that your message is reaching the people who need to hear it. So some of our goals of voter targeting are to broaden your campaign's potential donor base, to reach and ID influencers and leaders, and to touch voters that are most likely to vote for you. So, for example, we want to strategize early on in a campaign and think about, you know, who's going to vote for you in the campaign. What groups could you build coalitions with? What specific demographics in your district would appreciate a green message? Hi, thanks for being here. So these are all important things to consider. You have some different types of voter targeting. You have macro targeting when you're targeting a large group of individuals. For example, say you wanted to target a whole county or a whole zip code. It's based on broad generalities, and it does not necessarily rely on comprehensive data sets and predictive modeling so much as it does on conventional wisdom and common sense. And then you have micro-targeting. Political micro-targeting refers to a specific marketing strategy of a political campaign. And this strategy considers demographics and uses public or consumer data in order to direct campaign messaging toward a specific group of voters. And micro-targeting is something you definitely want to be doing in your campaign, right down to if you're running for city council and the street is tore up over on Hill Street, and the residents are all upset because they've had potholes in their street for 20 years. You want to target that issue. You want to speak to those voters on that street about that specific issue if you're running for city council. And that's a good example of micro-targeting or hyper-targeting a specific subset of voters in your district. Scorched earth tactics are not recommended for green campaigns. We do want to reach a lot of voters. However, if you attempt to contact 100% of your district, you're going to have a waste of campaign funds, volunteer hours, and other resources. So you want to remember that trying to contact everyone leads to a lot of wasted effort, and it's very difficult. Your volunteer morale will be lost if they encounter too many people who either don't care about or are in opposition to your campaign. So you want to make sure that your volunteers are talking to the right people, so we don't necessarily use scorched earth tactics. At the beginning of your campaign, when you're preparing your target, you want to make sure you do some research. That's very important, and that's coming up here in the 10 steps. And one thing that I'd really like to talk about coming up here too is message development. And we'll talk about how critical message development is in your campaign. So let's just go ahead and get into the 10 steps, and that is the end of my deck. Bear with me, folks. Okay, so the number one thing that we want to do when voter targeting is we want to identify our targets. And this bears repeating. Your number one target should always be disaffected populations in your district or in your community. It should always be people who aren't seeing the results that they want to see from government and want to see someone come along with better policies and make a change, and that's where the Green Party comes in. So, you know, you have different subsets of folks who are disaffected. The biggest one, I always like to talk about this, it's voters who do not participate in the electoral process. Those should be your number one target on a campaign. And if you're in one of the duopoly parties, that seems contrary to conventional wisdom, right? Because the people who vote for Democrats are happy with the way Democrats administrate, and the people who vote for Republicans are happy with the way that the Republicans administrate. So it's very important to know that 50% of the people out there aren't happy at all with the way anyone administrates, and that is a critical target for your campaign. You know, we have other examples, voters who are living in high poverty areas. Voters who are living in high crime areas, you know, and where I'm from, in our local includes Flint, Michigan, and so you know we have frontline communities, and we've knocked doors in Flint, Michigan with candidates, and spoke with voters, and the voters really come across as these issues are very, very important, even though we have the Flint water crisis. Crime is a major issue. So you want to think about who has issues, and it can really be anybody. It could be a voter that's upset about a plan to kick tenants out in order to pay for a landlord's delinquent property taxes. And you see, we have some other examples there, residents that are unhappy trash isn't being picked up. You need to think about who else will vote for you. What are the largest blocks that will vote for you? Maybe you're an activist and you know a lot of fellow activists, and you can get a large block of activists in your community to support you. Maybe you are a member or are familiar with specific groups that deal with issues or that you know, cater to certain types of people. And frankly, you know, that can be saying, hey, we've noticed that the absentee voters in our district, that 70% of them are over the age of 60, you know, so we want to direct special messaging toward that demographic. So you want to gather, the second step is to gather your voter contact and your demographic data. So the first thing you're going to think about is what your sources of data are going to be. You know, there's a variety of sources that you can get data from for free. You know, I would recommend, if you haven't really dug into the U.S. Census data for your district, you should get a volunteer to put that information together and get it in front of you so you can take a look at that information. Census data is huge for political targeting. And then you also have things like voter history, voter files, past polling, and of course, you can also purchase data. There are a lot of micro-targeting services that sell data. You know, it can be real expensive. I have actually heard that we have a couple Greens that have bought some data, though, at pretty affordable prices recently. So, you know, that's looking up, because if we can get data affordably, That's going to give us a competitive edge. The third.
May I interrupt you for just a moment?
Yes, sure.
This is Robert Alway out of Michigan, and one of the things I've learned is our county clerk's office do have the voter records and registered voters and records of who voted in various elections like primaries or the last November election. And they will sell you those lists for moderate prices. I've picked up 3 of those lists from one of our counties, Allegan County, for $25 a list, so I spent about $75. And in Van Buren County, as many as will fit on a thumb drive, they charge $85 for. So I have complete data for 2 counties. Now, different counties obviously then vary, but that is information that, at least in Michigan, seems to be available at moderate prices on a county-by-county basis.
Absolutely, Robert. Thanks for offering that tip. And if you have to get it quickly locally, you can usually get these files pretty cheap. Sometimes locally, you're not going to have additional information like phone numbers or emails. Nation Builder does offer free voter lists to candidates. I recommend, that is if you're not a statewide candidate. They do charge for statewide candidates, but all other candidates you can request a list, search free voter file Nation Builder on Google, and the link will come up, and you just enter your information there. And then that way you have phone numbers. In some states you have emails. Depending on the state, there could be a variety of different information that's collected at the state level, such as demographic information, et cetera. So that's another good option. And then of course you have a lot of large companies that sell data. And like I said, for most green campaigns, it's cost prohibitive at this point, but prices are going down. Okay, so before we move on to the third part, are there any further questions or comments? All right. Folks, you want to develop messaging. It gets real detailed in the past webinar about this. The critical thing I'd like to say about message development is, one, when you're targeting, you want to, like I said, have hypercritical messaging that is very specific, graphic. You want to survey your potential targets for feedback on the issues. And a lot of candidates make this mistake, and they're campaigning on an issue that's not even important to the community. So you want to make sure, folks are going to elect people to lead them when they are concerned about the issues that are important in the community. So you want to make sure that you survey potential targets and get some feedback on what they think about the issues. And you can do that by canvassing. You can do that by polling. There's a variety of methods. We want to make sure that we match our messaging to the targets. It's really critical aspect, and this is in marketing, and that's what we're doing. We're having a marketing campaign for a political candidate. That's what a political campaign is, right? It's a marketing campaign. And so when you come at it from a marketing perspective, this is referred to as one-to-one marketing. And it's basically a strategy that's based on knowing your target's preferences. So when you match the messaging to the targets, you know that down on Hill Street, they're really upset because of that pothole situation in the road. And you can match your messaging in a leaflet or a lit drop, for example, to target that issue. And
the recording has started. Please announce yourself.
Hi, this is Madeline.
Oh, hi, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
So matching your messaging to your targets is one of the most critical parts of a targeted political campaign. You want to make sure that you do that, and you want to test your message to make sure that your message is working. So you can do A/B testing. You can do focus groups. There's a variety of different things. If you have the time and you really want to dig and drill down and find out what's important to the community and what issues you're going to be able to get elected on, It's really important to do these things early on in the campaign. Any questions before we move forward? Okay, great. The fourth item here, you want to develop your voter outreach plan. You want to make a plan to do what we call touching voters. And as many of you know, you have to touch a voter several times in order to get that voter to move, in order to get that voter to vote for you in an election. And the conventional wisdom on this is, 4 to 5 times you have to touch a voter. So, they might see a newspaper article or hear an ad on the radio. But you also want to do the nuts and bolts campaigning. Make sure that you have a phone banking system in place, and make sure you're knocking your doors. And these are the different mediums and tactics that we use in order to touch voters in your voter universe. There are a lot of tested methods that are out there that are really good. I personally, I always recommend candidates, start with a soft touch. Start with a brief introduction. Don't come out swinging on a wedge issue. Instead, start with a soft touch to introduce yourself and your campaign to the voters. And then as they find out more about your campaign as your campaign progresses, you can get a little bit more detailed on the issues. But start with a soft touch. A lot of times it's great if that touch is a call, and then I like to follow that with a knock. A week later is a great time for a follow-up knock on your first soft touch, and you can ID the voter at that time to find out if they intend to vote. So you have these tested methods at work, and then if the voter is a 3 or a 4, and they're not certain and they're not ID'd as a vote for you, but they're persuadable, then try to touch them again with another phone call, or start to send mailers to their home, or do other things to make sure that you're directly marketing yourself to this persuadable voter. There's also room to be innovative with your voter outreach, and one of the things you want to think about is you want to get in front of as many eyeballs as possible. So at all the big festivals, that's a great place to just be collecting folks' emails and et cetera, and building your email lists, or asking folks to volunteer and get involved with your campaign. So if you have a street fair, if you have a county fair, if you have a big event where you have a sidewalk near a parking lot where there's a lot of traffic, put some volunteers down there and expand your network. The fifth item here, you want to use networking to reach your targets. And so early on in the campaign, you should be thinking about your personal network, your professional networks, and how you can use your existing networks to reach the populations that you want to talk to. So maybe on your Facebook friends list, you have the executive director of a local issues-based organization. Or maybe you know a local labor leader that would be willing to go out and stump for you on the campaign trail. You want to go through these networks initially and use these networks that you've already developed in order to build the infrastructure that you need to reach your targets. It's really important. The sixth item we have is prepare your volunteers. And, this is a situation that a lot of us take this step for granted, but you want to make sure that you have all your documents and your materials ready for volunteers early on. Put together volunteer education meetings. That's 101 type stuff. And you want to assess the skills and abilities and follow-through of your volunteers. In other words, you want to make sure that you take some time to just go along with your volunteers. Maybe your campaign manager or a member of your staff can go along with your volunteers and assess how they're representing your campaign out in the field, or assess how they're representing your campaign on the phone line. That step is very important and critical, and so I hope that everyone is spending enough time with their volunteers, and your volunteer coordinator is doing a lot of follow-up with them in order to make sure that you are delivering your message in a very professional way. The seventh step here I'd like to talk about is is actually engaging the targets. And you have different types of engagement, and it's important to remember, depending on what type of campaign you have, it matters what type of engagement you're interacting in. Statewide campaigns are going to do a lot more visibility events than they're going to do door knocking. City council candidate should really knock all the doors that they can. So you want to measure high-impact engagement versus low-impact engagement. There are a lot of low-impact engagement activities that are perfectly good activities, like tabling, and you see a lot of great creative tables out there. We want to make sure the high-impact engagement is always happening on your campaign. So once you've gotten to the point where you're engaging targets, you need to be knocking doors, you need to be making phone calls, and you need to be doing that on a daily basis until your campaign is over. And it's really the hard work that happens in those two areas that will determine your success. The great news is that making phone calls and knocking on people's doors and talking to them doesn't cost a lot of money. It costs a little money for literature when you're canvassing, but it's something that you can do with a minimal amount of resources. So when you target those resources, and you've got volunteers at X meeting, and you've got volunteers over here at Y event, and you've got your canvassers and phone bankers, and everybody's working in synergy, you're going to find that you're going to have a lot more impact in your engagement. The follow-up with your targets is very important. When you first touch a target, it's going to be very rare that they're going to be a 1. Only if we're calling lists of greens are people going to be really a 1 out of the box in most instances. And so you want to make sure that you're following up with these targets, and there's a few different ways to do it. Polling is a great way to do it. There are some independent polling firms that are willing to conduct small polls, and it's great to use these types of polls in order to gauge this information. You would definitely want to make sure that you put a strong second and third touch on your 3s and 4s. As I said, that's the follow-up knock, and that's a follow-up call, but it's very, very important that the persuadable voters in your targets continue to be contacted until we get an ID on it one way or another. Your goal is a positive ID for the candidate. The 9th step, you want to make sure that you're tracking your campaign data. So this is really important. Tracking campaign data is a critical part of marketing. So maintaining records over time will lead to a stronger connection with voters. Polling voters, as I said, it's significant because the organizing that we do with voters creates data. When we talk to voters, we get information. We find out what issues they care about. We find out who they're willing to vote for. And the Green Party really needs to make an effort on the whole to start to collect this data into a database. In business, we think of this as customer relationship management. But in the context of a political campaign, we can think of this as voter relationship management. And so when we're doing one-to-one marketing with voters and we're targeting their preferences, it's very important for us to keep a record of that data and then to use that data in the future in order to increase our ability to target voters. You want to make sure you're keeping accurate records. You want to make sure you have some really good data entry people on your team, and you want to make sure you have a really good data manager. That's really an overlooked function on a campaign, but you can't say enough about how important it is that your data is secure, that your data is backed up, and that your data is safe. So please, put a special emphasis on your campaign on data management. And the 10th step here in my 10 steps to successful targeted political campaigning is assessment. You want to run short campaigns and you want to assess your results. When I say run a short campaign, I mean run a short targeting campaign. So over the next 30 days, we're going to try to reach X population with a message, and then we're going to ID that population and find out whether or not we're reaching them with the message. You want to take a realistic look at what are your targeting strengths and what are your targeting opportunities? How could you improve your voter targeting program? And we've always got room for improvement, in everything that we do. So it's important to reflect on this. Are you meeting the goals of your targeted political campaign, or what could be done differently? And one thing that's really important, folks, and I can't stress this enough, the CCC, we've got a small group that is just for candidates or key campaigners. It's the Green Candidate Forum on Facebook. And that is a good place where we can privately share with each other, the successes on our campaigns. And really, it's when we share this information from campaign to campaign, and people hear about what works in different places and under different situations and different scenarios. This is, that is really a wealth of information that can have a powerful impact. So, it's important for us to share our experiences with each other, and try to help each other improve their campaigns. So, folks, I wanted to talk really quickly here before we get to some questions. I wanted to bring up this map and just see what people think of this. I think that this is a very interesting map. This is from the 2016 Democratic primary election, Bernie Sanders versus Hillary Clinton in the state of New York, where, of course, Clinton was a former senator. There's a couple things here when I look at this that jump out to me when I think of targeting.
Excuse me.
If you're familiar with the state of New York, you can see that Hillary Clinton actually had a very smart campaign strategy in New York. She targeted the highly populated areas to campaign. All the blue area is lower populated areas that was won by Bernie Sanders, which is great, and you want to be able to try to talk to a lot of these folks. But when you look at who had the better strategy, Sanders was spread out. He was all over the state. He won a lot of counties, but he really fell short in votes because he failed to target the highly populated areas. So when we talk in terms of strategy here, there are a couple different ways that you can look at this. And one way is to say, hey, we want to target everybody who voted for Bernie Sanders. Yes.
Erin? Can you hear me?
Yes, Hillary. Yes.
So I don't know what's going on with the desktop sharing. We can see your desktop, but we don't see the PowerPoint. Like, I'm just looking at, thumbnails on your computer.
Oh.
Maybe you're only sharing your desktop and not, in terms of the actual, we had it for a second. I think you're sharing your desktop and not PowerPoint, the program.
I think I understand what's going on.
Yeah.
How's that? Can you see New York?
No, I see a small thumbnail of it in your, file manager.
That's real weird. Yeah, it's large on my screen, folks. You can find this graphic.
We had it for a second. There was a hot second. Oh, whatever you just did.
Yeah.
I have a dumb question, but I do not see a link or anything to get to the webinar part. I called in, but
you should have gotten it in the same email. It would have been in the same email with the number. I can email it to you, Holly.
Okay. All right. I have it then. Never mind.
It's something with the sharing settings, Erin. You probably said share my desktop, but not. I don't know how to fix it mid-call, but.
All right.
But anyway, carry on.
Hillary?
We do. Yes, I see the spreadsheet.
Okay. Well, we'll just go to the spreadsheet. But the graphic we were looking at, what it really showed was, that Sanders won most of the counties in New York. And so, if you have a lot of campaign staff, you could really go around all those counties Sanders won. These are folks that aren't scared of the word socialism, and that might be a targeted demographic that you want to reach. But when you look at pure campaign strategy, you know, in every state there are counties that you have to win in order to win that election. It's usually your highly populated areas, right? So, you know, it's important to see that in this election, Clinton used the strategy of targeting highly populated areas. And you can see here where Sanders won, you know, and he won big with big shares of the vote. But the vote totals, as we go down here, the vote totals aren't too much. These would be some great folks to target for volunteers in these counties, you know. But that when you look down here, these are the counties that matter the most. These are the counties that swayed the balance of the election. So it did no good for Sanders to dominate in all of these outlying counties when look how bad he's getting beaten in Manhattan, you know, in the Bronx. He's just completely destroyed in the Bronx. And that's why it's important for us to know that, yes, sometimes we might want to say, hey, you know, we're Greens and, you know, Bernie-crats will vote for us, so we want to target the Bernie-crats, so let's target the places where Bernie's won. That's all well and good, but you could hit all of those places that Bernie won in the state of New York, and you don't come close to winning the election. You know, the final result here is a blowout, 57% to 41%. So, you know, we want to make sure that when we're targeting, that the first thing we're thinking of is, what does it take to win the election? Here in my state, it's Wayne County and Genesee County. And if you're campaigning on a statewide basis, you should be campaigning heavily in both of those counties. It takes both of those counties to win. You know, in New York State, obviously, it takes Manhattan, it takes Westchester, it takes the Bronx. You're not going to have a victory in New York State if you don't do well in these counties. So this is an example of how we can look at statistical data in order to determine different types of targets. Does anybody have any questions about this spreadsheet in specific, or why this data is important to know if you're campaigning in New York State?
This is Shar Davenport, and I don't want to take too much time, but I worked on campaigns in New York, specifically in Western New York, Wyoming County. I'm looking at some of these up here. Cayuga, I think, was on there, and these are Republican counties. I think we, you know, in Bernie and Hillary here, we're looking at a primary, right? We're looking at a primary election.
That's correct, and you are. You're looking at a ton of red counties.
Yeah. Okay. I felt like I wanted to point that out too because the counties that in Hillary was smart to do this. She really focused on those counties that were going to vote Democrat in the general. Am I wrong about that?
No, you're right about that. She targeted high population counties, and it's the same situation here in Michigan with a little bit different result. But
yeah,
you know, it's the same strategy that was used, is to target the high population areas. And so, of course, we might have Greens that are in these outlying red counties, you know, but in other words, you know, if we looked at it by saying, hey, you know, let's just run where Bernie's won. Where we're going to be running is actually a bunch of red places, right?
Yes.
Instead, it's my strategy, you know, when you look at numbers like this, would be to focus on the counties that carry the most weight in the election, the counties that you have to get a high percentage of votes in, and those are always the high population counties.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Jason Stack?
Thank you, Shar. Jason?
Just to tie in there, I think more of the point is that I think the reason why Bernie did so well in those areas is because those areas don't have a Democratic Party. Most of those are very, very rural counties where the Democratic Party doesn't actually exist. It's all one party, so the people that are registered Democrat are a little more open to opposition candidates internally because there's no structure there to tell them who to vote for.
And Jason, what would you say would be a pretty high percentage of independent voters in those counties as well?
Yes. Yeah, because it's one party really. It's Republican or nothing. They're very rural.
I would like to add on to what you just said, and we did win in Wyoming County local elections, and I don't want to belabor the point here, but we did exactly what Erin was talking about. We had two really big issues, and we won on the issues, not on the party. So I think that's a good point. So
yeah,
good point
there's
by
definitely
you.
opportunities there.
The message
Absolutely.
is huge.
Yes.
So, at this point, I'd like to have a little bit of general discussion here. So there's a lot of folks on the call that have experience at voter targeting. Could we hear from a couple of folks about what have been some of your best experiences using voter targeting and how that had a positive effect on your campaign?
So I can speak to, Shar and I were just at a big fireworks in Bay City this past Saturday, and between the two of us, I think we talked to like 1,000 people.
Awesome. Jennifer, what was it specifically that caused you to target the fireworks in Bay City? Was it just that it was a large event with a lot of folks, or was there a specific demographic of voters that?
Yeah, so Shar can explain a little bit more because she's actually from Bay City, but these fireworks, we met people from all over the state, which made this even like a better chance because like now just a whole bunch of people like all over the place, like just, met us at a festival and took our card and shook our hands. And so Shar, kind of talk about the fireworks and why we went on Saturday.
Well, excuse me, I'm from that area. And I know that Bay City, I'm talking about Michigan, Bay City, Saginaw, Flint, or Bay County, Saginaw County, Genesee County are Democratic. But I also know that, economically it's a pretty depressed area. People love those fireworks. They love their country up there. And I don't think we talked about this, Jennifer, but I specifically targeted as much as I could people who were not white, and that was so effective because Saginaw is like Flint, this kind of forgotten place, and these people are hungry. And so we sat down, we talked to them like one-on-one. I don't know if I'm providing any valuable information, but they will not forget that. We were the first candidates that they had seen this cycle. That's amazing to me.
And in some cases, ever.
And in some cases, ever. Absolutely. Absolutely. All the campaigns of the major parties are being run on, social media and television ads, and they're running the same ad, as far north as you can get as they are in Detroit. And it doesn't make, that's not targeting. And I think going to events, I think, Erin, you mentioned this, going to these large festivals and things like that is a wonderful idea.
Absolutely, Shar. Absolutely. Folks, any other stories about targeting specific demographics that you'd like to relay?
This is Justin Beth from Maine. on the call, and I'd like to maybe add a couple thoughts. Erin, nice to talk with you, Erin, by the way. Thank you for hosting.
Great, thanks. Nice to have you here.
Okay, so we're actually we're gearing up to do a little bit of candidate training here. We have 6 candidates for state rep here in Maine, so we're excited for them. And but one thing I've been stressing, and we're really starting to work on here in state, is really focusing on our municipal committees. So that's kind of where the targeting is going on in our municipal committees, trying to build stronger municipal committees and get them to interact, almost at the state rep district level, and kind of really try to engage as many folks as we can there. And one thing I keep telling, you mentioned like disaffected voters, I find that nowadays both Democrats and Republicans are disaffected voters as well. And it doesn't take much persuasion in some cases to win them over to, thinking about voting outside of the box. As I go knocking on doors for some of these candidates, there's a high level of dissatisfaction from both Democrats and Republicans right now, and I think we can capitalize on that. And I don't think we should really say, let's focus only on Democrats or Bernie-crats or I think we also need to consider Republicans and, of course, independents. And I think we should try to win them all over in some ways. But at the same time, we have to be smart. I think, again, focusing on our municipal committees and making them strong and tracking that data, as you were saying, is an excellent idea. But I think we need to do it in the areas, the municipal committees where we have strong Republicans, strongholds. And, we can also do it down in, strong Democratic strongholds, like in Jabari Prisport, what he did when he ran for city council in the Bronx, I believe, or Brooklyn. And, he was able to win 33% of the vote. And with a strong municipal committee there, I think we can grow more as a party and, have those bases for our candidates to run on in the future. And I think that's kind of the gist of what I wanted to say. Thank you for your time. Let me add my 2 cents.
Some great thoughts. Thanks so much for sharing.
Yeah.
Folks, any other stories to relay?
Sorry, what was that?
Does anybody else have any, specific stories about how they've used voter targeting, in a campaign, that made a positive impact on the campaign that was measurable? Say, like maybe the campaign was sluggish at first, and then we started going to, the local township meetings, to make sure that all of the key players in the township were involved, or any sort of demographic. I'm just looking to hear some different types of experiences, how you've used voter targeting in your campaigns in the past, or how you're using it currently.
Holly, start.
Holly.
Hi. And forgive me if this has been mentioned, but one thing we've done, we have someone who's kind of a political geek in our auditor's office. He refused to do this for us in 2016 for the presidential race, but for local races that are nonpartisan and usually have a progressive coalition behind various candidates, this guy can create a walking map. So you've got your targeted area, you've got your issues area and whatever, and likely voters. And if you want to canvass, and you get a map with various, a walking map, so you can efficiently walk various streets and know which houses are probably best avoided because they're unlikely voters, what houses to hit, what houses to hit again. That's been extremely helpful for us, and I think it's been effective in several of our local races actually. So there's kind of a, you talk about the kind of voter data that you were, habitual voter votes, non-voter, whatever. And you get that, and then from that you can develop a walking map of places you can kind of hit up and then apply your strategy to that.
Barbara Stack.
Barbara, go ahead.
Okay. I'm running for a state senate, And my district is very unique in that it takes care of the part of Wichita State Capital, the city that has a large demographic of people who are financially poorer, minorities, financially struggling, and struggles in all kinds of social ways. And the other part of my district is where I live, which is mostly white in Wethersfield, has different kinds of issues. So what I do with my literature is that I have some specific things for Hartford and some specific things for Wethersfield. And then I pick usually I have 5 things for each of the areas, but 1 or 2 of them are going to overlap to bring them together because we have the same problems that we have to address at the state level. So that kind of targeting for the population I'm hoping to represent over.
That's fantastic, and that's absolutely what we need to be doing. We need to be talking to the people that we want to represent. Folks, anyone else with more stories? Come on, don't be shy.
This is Shar again.
Shar, go ahead.
Yeah. Jennifer and I attended a candidates forum at a Arab American school, and Jennifer, you can speak to this. You were on the panel, but one of the most interesting things to me was how, and I love Jennifer for doing this because I've learned so much, but she went and she was one of 2 gubernatorial candidates who showed up. That we talked to everybody in that room and gave them literature, and they were so grateful. and I just think that that one of what I learned from Jennifer was on that particular day was go. Don't not go. If you can go. She's a lot younger than me, but so she can go everywhere. But and that's when we talked shortly after that, we talked about going up to that big fireworks display. Because other people aren't going. They're all caught up in their primaries and they're jostling, somewhere else for position, but they're not showing up. And we did.
For sure. Well, go ahead. You have more to add?
No. That's it. And I don't know if it's germane to what you were asking, but yeah. Pretty awesome.
Oh, it is. I think it's very helpful. Folks, are there any specific challenges that we can think of to effective voter targeting programs? Are there any things that where you've had specific areas where you have questions or would like more help?
Well, I hate to be the only one talking here, but this is Shar again. As a transgender woman, I realize that there aren't very many candidates running for statewide office anywhere in the country who are transgender. But I feel that that's the LGBT, but specifically the trans community, which is not very large, but the allies and families of trans people is very large. And it represents a significant block of, I would say, disenchanted Republicans who did vote for Trump, in Michigan, Democrats who must have voted for Trump or he never would have won Michigan, and wish that they hadn't. Because we're still, and what I feel like is that's a wedge issue. I understand it, but I think it's something that I can hopefully take advantage of. But I'm not sure how to do that because all of the rhetoric is coming out of the Republican and Democrat parties, and I'm not sure how to break through that without saying, yeah, we believe the same thing or something. And any ideas on that? Because I will tokenize myself if that means to make change, if we can create change.
Well, can't you do like he was talking about, do the ally kind of thing? You know, where you meet with the leaders of those groups and see if they'll get on board with you?
Well, it's a lot of individuals. I don't see an awful lot of groups. And that's where I'm running into some problems with this. They're all on social media, and maybe that's what I need to do is target more on social media.
Social media is a great place to build coalitions, and you can also get a lot of sharing, so it really advances through people's networks. Folks, it sounds like we've got a good grasp on things. I don't hear a lot of questions, which is great. So that means that everybody's got a really good voter targeting program for their campaign, and that they're really utilizing this as a way to manage their resources as we get closer to Election Day. So that's very exciting. Folks, I want to thank everybody. We've heard some great insight and participation on the call. If you have follow-up questions, you can contact ccc@gp.org, or you can contact me directly on Facebook, Erin Fox. You can contact my co-chair, Holly Hart, or any of the CCC members or liaisons for help. We know that you all have campaigns that need help, and we really want to keep in touch with your campaign, so we hope that you stay in touch with the CCC liaison in your state, or if you're one of the 9 states that currently have a CCC member on the committee, please stay in touch with your CCC member. We're here to help you, and at any point in the campaign, we can help troubleshoot and say, hey, here's some things that you can do to help move the campaign forward, and offer suggestions and tips and things like that. And I really would encourage you all to go through the resources that we have on gpus.org. You can click on committees. The URL is a little long, but click on committees and you'll see Coordinated Campaign Committee. And under that heading, we have an archive of our prior conference calls and webinars that you can access. On the subject of voter targeting, we have some further information there. We've got last year's call, a very detailed, almost 20-page outline that goes with it. And then we have some previous material. Lynn also has some great stuff on voter targeting there on the CCC committee page. So once again, you can find that at gpus.org. Does anybody else have any further questions about targeted political campaigning that they'd like to talk about tonight?
This is Justin from Maine again. Just one quick question, Erin. You mentioned the voter file nation builder, the free voter file on nation builder for phone numbers.
Yes, sir.
Maybe you could, it might be helpful, like how can we get those phone numbers off of nation builder, and are they useful phone numbers? Are they cell phones? Any idea on that? We could definitely use some phone numbers for some of our campaigns, and would those be available for our state rep candidates, for instance?
Yeah, and what you want to do is have your state rep candidate just contact Nation Builder directly. Like I said, search free voter file Nation Builder, and it pops right up. It'll be the first link in your results. And like I said, those files are available to everyone who's not a statewide candidate. Nation Builder does charge for statewide candidates. Statewide candidates should go to their states and try to get information. Hopefully your states are collecting this data as well, and so you have some on file. Otherwise, I think statewide candidates, they charge $2,500, which is still pretty affordable for the information. What types of phone numbers do they have? It really varies based on state. It's my understanding that there's a couple different ways that they cross-check these files in order to add things to them. Some folks have said, hey, my file comes out and it's the same file that you get from the county clerk, and the only advantage was they got it for free from Nation Builder, and it's in a format they can use. Well, and then some folks say, oh hey, I've got emails, and those are the lucky folks that get emails. But in terms of the phone numbers, I call Nation Builder numbers. I run across a lot of numbers that work. It's just like every phone banking. You also run across a lot of numbers that don't work. Generally, I think you have a lot of integrity in terms of the voters, the voters' addresses, which is good for your canvassing. But it's a good free resource for most campaigns, and for a lot of campaigns, it's more data than they're going to be able to use. One thing is, folks, when you get the Nation Builder site, if you don't have a pretty powerful computer, or you don't have experience using, for example, Access or another database program, you might want to find someone who does, so that they can cut it down into something that's more manageable. The files tend to be extremely large. They can't be sent over email. You get them via a download link, and for a lot of computers, it really bogs the system down to try to open a file that that has 100,000 rows, for example. So you do want to think about that. If you're getting that file, hopefully you either are familiar with using Microsoft Access or MySQL, or a similar method of database management. But if not, you definitely want to find a friend that can help you get those open and get them into something that's manageable for you to take your cuts. Any other questions?
Thanks so much, Erin.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Thanks for a great question.
I have a general question. This is Steve Mann, Election Officer, Missouri Green Party. I would like to find the call. Yes, very good information. We can get a statewide voter list for $35 from our Secretary of State. I also urge people to get the 2016 or 2016 election results. Find the places, the polling places that had, high Stein or high Green Party candidate voting, and, kind of target those places. That's where you might find a base.
Definitely great targets, especially, early on in your campaign, you want to be contacting as many Greens as possible, because those are going to be the people who are going to become your campaign. That's your most likely place to develop a strong volunteer base. So if early on you're calling and you're networking with known Greens and getting them involved and excited about your campaign, that's really a best practice. Don't wait until it's too late to start contacting your list of Greens.
Thank you. One more question. Do we have the link to the last webinar on fundraising? I need the PDF for that.
Actually, the last webinar on fundraising was not recorded. Hillary, do we have that PDF up on the site?
I think so. We didn't record it because of technical difficulties, but I'm pretty sure that I did put up her slide deck. So let me just triple check here. And we are recording this one, so this will go up. You always want to go to gpus.org, which is the more internal-facing website, not gp.org, which is external. gpus.org, and that's the one where all the committee info is available, and you basically navigate to the Coordinated Campaign Committee page and then the webinars page. And if I'm scrolling down, there is a link for the slide deck only. I'm also going to put this in the comment box on.
Thank you. That's great.
And anyone on the call who needs a link to the information or needs help accessing the information, you can always contact the committee at ccc@gp.org. at any time, and we'd be happy to try to help point you in the right direction and get you the information that you need. Our goal is we want your campaigns to have all of the information and all of the tools that you need in order to be successful, in order to win these races. I'd like to thank everybody for being on the call tonight. I know that it's very busy with your campaigns, and your time is really important. And we heard a lot of great things on the call, and so hopefully everybody's found this to be useful information, and you'll take this back and re-energize your campaign, your voter targeting program. Hopefully you're targeting those absentee voters. That's 1 in 4 people. Make sure that's a critical target that you want to make sure you reach. So make sure you get your absentee voter lists and you're contacting those voters with a targeted message. Folks, if there's anything else.
2 quick announcements.
Quick announcements from
So
Hillary?
actually 3 quick announcements. So one is if anyone is going to be at the annual national meeting in Salt Lake City next week, I will be there, Erin will be there, Holly Hart will be there, so other CCC members. So just, I don't know that we're going to have any kind of formal meet and greet time, but we will be doing a couple of workshops. So I will be doing Running for Office 101, and please just, identify yourself, say hi. We want to put faces with names, particularly our candidates. The other thing is that if you haven't seen it already via email, we are trying to promote something that we're calling Green Wave 2018. And so mostly it's like a social media thing, and obviously it's also a push to get people to actually volunteer on Green Party campaigns. But whenever you're out and about campaigning and doing something, snap some photos, put it on social media, hashtag #GreenWave2018. There is a blue wave out there. We got to, show that there's a strong green wave. We're especially emphasizing the first Saturday of the month, but, really people obviously should be out campaigning every Saturday, if not every day. And then the last thing, and I think this is not quite ready as an announcement because I don't know that we've completely agreed on a date, but we are going to try for the first time ever a Green Party Facebook telethon to raise money for candidates sometime in August. Is it August 19th, Erin, or are we still up in the air?
That's a penciled-in date. We're meeting with the media committee on it tomorrow, and
so
I just firm up after that.
People who might have, you might want to be interviewed. Basically, we're going to need to make up 6 to 8 hours of content. And so we're looking for, candidates that want to get interviewed, perhaps by somebody else in your local, like another fellow Green, or, if you're going to be out and about doing something, other people are, I'm just the messenger here. Other people have the plans, but just save the date, mark your calendars, and if this is something you want to participate, again, contact us at ccc@gp.org.
Thanks, Hillary, so much for that.
No problem.
And with that, folks, any further questions? Okay, great.